Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons, unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm excited to bring Adam Rankin onto the podcast, the founder of Unlocked. Now, Unlocked is not your average consultancy. Adam and his team embed deep within a brand or a business to help align strategy, execution, and commercial growth. They don't just hand off plans, they help drive them forward. Welcome, Adam. Let's dive in.
No problem, Lawrence. Thanks for the invite.
So I briefly positioned Unlocked. I wonder if you could just give us a little bit more context around the business, but also perhaps your sort of professional career to date and what got you here.
Yeah, of course. So I've spent 25 years in retail, and I started actually on market stalls in the northeast of England, where I learned how to, let's say, sell, but more importantly, listen. So I think those sort of early years shaped everything that I do now. They taught me the power of understanding people and the importance of earning every sale, because especially when you're working for a family business. From there, my path took me through numerous larger global brands, so Puma, Apple, and Nike, three very different environments, all that had one thing in common, which was a relentless focus on people, process, and performance. I think at Nike, I learned about scale, so how to rhythm, process, and consistently drive growth. At Apple, it was really about culture and how clarity of purpose and simplicity of message sort of builds world-class experience. And now at Unlocked, I've worked with brands like Pangaea and Camper, and this is more about agility. So how to grow brands while sort of protecting their authenticity. And those lessons learned right early on in my foundation. Every decision should connect to the boardroom, to the shop floor, and every idea should be sort of grounded in reality. So Unlocked, I sort of look at myself not as a consultancy, because it has like a bit of a strange context, but more as an embedded growth partner who help brands connect strategy, structure, and then implementation or execution.
And when you first designed the Unlocked model, how did you decide where strategy ends and execution begins?
It was like the foundation of Unlocked. So, and I call it more of a commercial leadership practice. So I founded it to be like really hands-on, because what I realized is a lot of the time, decks and presentations and these types of things driven from senior leadership team don't necessarily get close to the implementation or what's really needed, let's say, on a sales floor. And I've seen that gap in the market, because strategy is easy to create, but it's worthless unless it lives in execution and implementation with your team. So really, it came about actually as a contract with Pangaea and partnering with another agency, Hua. So Chris and his team run e-commerce end to end. And he was the one who actually gave me the idea. And then it was just about translation, that intent into rhythm. And then when I'm in businesses, it's about how do I build a commercial cadence? How do I align teams? And then how do I use their systems or give them ideas around systems that have the ability to make that strategy, let's say, actionable? And then I suppose the key part is, and why I try not to use myself as a consultancy, is because I embed inside the teams like a fractional commercial officer. So shoulder to shoulder, because I believe then you're able to understand the friction points before designing the fix. So that's how I sort of turn theory into traction.
I'd imagine there's a potential friction there, however, if you're embedding yourself within a customer's environment to, as you say, rightfully, really get to the bottom of the inner workings. But as your demand grows for the services and as you scale, how do you continue, or how do you foresee keeping that high touch model going without diluting quality?
Yeah, so at the moment, it literally is just me. So, and I think I'm in that process over 12 months of really sort of understanding how I can position this model. And I think let's say, to grow this into an agency where I have multiple people working, they would definitely need to be, because this space is really crowded and you can deliver a PDF, but a PDF isn't what I do. So it would really be looking across the market at talented retailers or commercial experts who I've worked with, helping them understand what I do, because I operate within businesses. So it will be behaving like a fractional leadership team. And I think that'll be my challenge as I look to grow Unlocked and transferring it from a one-man band, let's say, to an agency. It's then about finding those right people. I'm lucky that the fact that I've worked for some of the greatest brands in the world across numerous different markets and led some phenomenal people. So I think for me, it will be easy to find people, but I'm not about chasing visibility or volume. I'm about chasing impact, and it won't be defined by how many clients I have, but how deeply can we embed in their business and see the change that we leave behind. And I think when you embed, it then allows you then to slowly but surely step back. So it's just looking for them commercial leaders who would then want to make that jump. Or the other idea is, do I have it on almost like a pay-to-play basis where I'm the facilitator for brands who then I can plug a certain individual in, be it wholesale, be it retail, be it e-com. So that's sort of where I'm looking at the moment, but I think they're more ideas which are further out than right now in the moment. I really enjoy doing this myself because it's where I suppose that's my passion, is developing brands, businesses, and people.
So a lot of that value obviously currently sits within your experience and essentially within your head. Have you considered how you would approach capturing that value and then systemizing the knowledge so that scaling is a potential for you, sometime in the future?
Yeah, so I'm trying to do a bit like that at the moment with every client I work with. I think I'm building out a playbook in terms of how I operate. So I think the first part is pretty much done, and it's called discovery. So the discovery element is where I spend maybe a week or 2 weeks with the team doing a lot of listening and understanding. Yes, I've heard the expectations of the customer, which is normally the CEO, the board, or the owner, but I spend time going from the bottom up. And then I can deliver that sort of thesis, let's say, to the person who I've been speaking to, so the client. So that part is done. With the last two businesses I've worked with, so Pangaya and Campa, I'm currently trying to build out a playbook of how do I embed, what systems do I use, and then how do I go about engaging the team to bring them on that journey. And actually, during your career, you don't really do that. So it's almost like writing a training guide for a job. And that's something that I'm learning as I go. And I think obviously AI helps with that, right? I can speak to it, I can chat to it, and basically it can filter my thoughts into something tangible, and then I can begin to map it. So that's currently the process I'm on. But I think first and foremost, it's looking for attitude, motivation, and experience. And the skill set in the playbook is normally relatively easy to deliver.
I've spent a fair amount of time developing sales books playbooks for sales teams. And the thing with selling is that oftentimes it's an instinct thing. It sort of comes natural to the individual. So having a playbook will only get an individual so far, but if they don't have that sort of natural sales instinct, oftentimes is a bit of a challenge to try bridge. What are your thoughts around turning your instinct into process so that you can provide a full playbook, as you say, for future employees within Unlocked to be able to deliver more for the company?
Yeah, I think it's more of playbook is one of them words as well, isn't it? So I think it's more of it's about providing the guidance. And I think what would initially happen, and I suppose this is something that I've done through my career with any of your direct reports or people that you're developing, is that you will spend time mentoring and reverse mentoring with clients. So you would bring that person on the journey. It wouldn't be, hey, look, you're onboarded to Unlocked, see you later, off you go, and get your first client. It would really be about taking them on that journey, helping them understand the why behind what we do. And then obviously that reverse mentoring piece would then help them understand how to navigate a business. Because remember, a lot of these people, let's say in the future, who I would employ would be senior individuals within business. And what you do in this role is you really go back to the roots, and you're embedding sometimes in hiring sales associates for the first store opening. So you're actually reusing a lot of the skills that you've had within your career. And sometimes you haven't used them skills for a long, long time. So it's about taking them on that journey and really making sure that they understand it and giving that feedback and observing them in the moment. And I think that's something I really learned at Apple. It's like that sort of, that mentoring piece is critical, because it's a bit like Unlocked. You can have the guideline, you can have the PDF, but unless you're doing it in the moment with the person and giving them real-time feedback, it probably wouldn't land right.
I think it's a great approach because, as you rightly say, the knowledge probably isn't entrenching itself unless there's someone sitting right next to you, walking you through and helping you land the concepts within your own mind.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely.
So Adam, in a space that's filled with growth partners and strategy boutiques and the likes, I mean, how do you articulate what makes Unlock different?
Yeah, I think it's, especially in this region, let's say in the Middle East, it's really about using my network and sitting down with people and helping them understand what I do. We differentiate ourselves by doing the opposite of consultancies, and we don't sit outside the business, we operate within it. And that's very, very different because, as an example, people like me, in my role, normally stay with the big brands and work their way up the chain, but that wasn't fulfilling me anymore. Although I love the day-to-day, I realized that my passion was around developing people and sort of building brands and entering a market. So I think I behave like a fractional leadership team. So embedded, accountable, commercially focused. And like I said before previously, we need to be visible, because actually if I was to just sit at the end of a computer and I was to come in on Zoom meetings or Google Meets or whatever it is, sometimes the team aren't asking you the questions that they would normally ask you. So with one of my current clients, Camber, I'm in their office 3 days a week because I can work with them, alongside them, and they have a partner there. The owner has a partner and the team have a partner to be able to guide them on that journey. So that's what we do different. We embed. And I think there's many ways of doing that as well. And when it comes to offering them sort of proposals, I sort of look at different levels. So do you just want me to advise? Do you want me to guide? Or do you want me to embed? And I think that's how I sort of break it down for them and try and remove the noise from other consultancies, because I don't deliver a PDF at all at any point in the stage.
Are there any common misunderstandings that prospects have around what you can actually do for them?
Yes. I think and I think I've said this in a couple of answers now, is that people obviously just initially see you as a consultant. And I think that was the challenge at the start. So I think something which I've really started to lean on is the people who I've worked with and the brands that I've worked with, is leaning into them for sort of references. So I actually ask, as part, before we get to discovery, if we're sort of looking at a proposal, I'll ask them to reach out to, the CEO of Pangaya or, the owner of Camper or something along them lines, because it really helps them understand what I can do. Because again, they're expecting a PDF. They're expecting me to walk around with a clipboard and then tell you what to do. But that isn't what I do. So helping them actually understand that I'll sit in their office alongside that team, and I want the company email address to be able to do that, it allows me to work as part of their team. So those misconceptions, it takes some time, but I've found that the referencing of previous clients and setting up those meetings has sort of really helped smooth the sort of road as I go into these brands.
Yeah, and beyond relying on the the references from previous companies that you've worked with. I mean, I think that's great, and it certainly adds some gravitas to the introduction, and it's clearly opened a few doors for you. What would you say has been the most effective lever for brand visibility? Is it, case studies, partnerships, your personal network?
Yeah, so I think number one has been personal network. I think since I've started Unlocked as well, I've been much more visible on LinkedIn and sort of talking about what I'm doing, what I'm seeing in the industry, and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and linking anything I see to the sort of services that we do. I actually think mentoring, and it comes back to your network. So one of my network is actually one of my mentors, and they have an e-com agency, and they push people to me for a reference for them. But actually, that turns into a conversation about how they can deliver e-com. But if they want to move that brand into a physical space, I can do that side of the business. And I think that also gives you credibility. And coming back to LinkedIn, it's a really powerful tool if you use it right. And I think when you're sharing true reflections of what you've done or what you've seen, it encourages conversation and it encourages connection. And then last but not least is any sort of events that are available in the region around. Is it, shop talk? Is it any events that are happening in the UAE or even beyond, where you can meet people, you can have a conversation about them, and you may not be connected in any way, shape or form, or you may not be able to work together right now, but you never know what the future holds. So I was talking to a guy actually who has his company designs stores, but actually when they design stores, they're trying to think about the customer experience, but they don't necessarily have the commercial understanding to really deeply design the customer experience. So we're actually having a conversation about how I can support him when he gets a project. So again, network, LinkedIn, and events.
It sounds like you're in a space with Unlocked where you're got a handful of clients that you're delivering for. Yeah. You're trying to use that to build out some use cases, essentially prove concept, and then in a couple of months, or maybe it's in a year's time, look to expand the client base, maybe bring one or two team members on board who can handle those accounts, and then sort of expand a little bit more organically. Would that sound accurate?
Yeah, and I think probably at that point it may be you're looking at people who can support you in doing, let's say, the grunt work, whereas you're still the face of the brand. But if there's something that you need to develop, you have a team of people around you who can develop that for you. You can give it the proof and the concept, and then really sort of then look to roll it out within certain companies. So yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. But again, I'm not about scaling for the sake of it, because it's about depth, not breadth.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So as you've said, you're a one-man band currently. That obviously means that you're wearing a couple of hats, keeping a few balls up in the air. How are you managing all of that?
So I think, so obviously I'm embedded with clients at the moment. So I think number one, you're building out frameworks or strategies for them. But in tandem, you're also looking at how am I doing it? Why am I doing it? And then how can I pull that into the playbook? And I think as a retailer at heart, and, when I was at Nike, I'm looking after 9 countries, 85 stores. Retail is a very fast moving business where you juggle a lot of balls and you wear a lot of hats. So actually it's normal for me, and I've grew up like this through my career. I think if you want to be in a corporate space and come into that retail commercial space, it will be a lot more challenging. But I suppose in my world, it's what I've grown up with and where I thrive.
And if we look at the company as a whole, sort of from a macro point of view, what would you say is working really well within the company right now?
I would say the way in which we're communicating outward. So, I built a website myself, which is, again, like wearing one of them hats, but the way in which we're communicating outward. And I think the way in which we connect with clients and network, I'm constantly meeting people. When I think about the things, and this might be your next question, but I'll get to it before you do, the stuff that I find challenging is because you are a one-man band and I thrive in team. And actually, when you are starting something on your own, you never really know where your next pound note's coming from. So that in itself can be a challenge, but actually it just motivates you to go out and meet people, connect with people. And I've had some really great partners so far who have been really open to, like Canberra at the moment, they're allowing me to really thrive and drive their expansion into the GCC. And we've got a great relationship, and long may that continue. And, there's always the possibility that someone may say, hey, look, we'd love you to come in on a longer term contract and support us to this point. And again, at Unlocked, I'm open to that because I am just one person right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about the next 18 to 24 months, what excites you most about where Unlocked is heading?
I think what excites me most, and I said this earlier, is that I feel like, especially this region, there's a lot of brands and businesses that are upcoming, and the government and the country is very, very supportive for things like that. So I see a lot of opportunity in terms of, number one, how this country and this region allows these smaller brands to grow and develop. Number two, I think the opportunity in this region, it's still a little bit untapped, especially when you come out of the UAE. I think there are countries like Saudi, Qatar, Jordan, Kuwait, where actually consumer behavior hasn't necessarily caught up to the brands. So the malls are packed, but the shopping culture isn't quite there. So that really excites me because then it allows me to support these brands or these companies on their growth. And it may be larger businesses who just want to come into the region. They've got the might, but they don't necessarily have the knowledge. So that actually really excites me about the space.
Amazing. And Adam, if our listeners and viewers want to reach out to yourself and connect with Unlocked, where's the best place for them to do that?
I think the best place is just to search me on LinkedIn. You can find me under Unlocked or Adam Rankin. You will find us. So yeah, I'd look forward to connecting and networking.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been an interesting conversation, diving into your history to date from a professional standpoint, but also unlocking Unlocked and diving into the inner workings there and talking about how things are currently operating, but also where you want to be in the future. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thanks a lot. And I think actually a lot of this is driven by, it's not only just helping businesses, but it's almost like I'm focused on mentoring the next generation of commercial leaders. And when you go into these clients, normally they have them. So it really allows me to develop them and help them build that strategic thinking and operational discipline and the stuff that shaped my own career. So yeah, it's a really interesting space to be in. But Lawrence, thanks for the invite. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you over the last half an hour.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.